Hey everybody, welcome to Matthew's Sports Analysis, where we don't just watch sports, we analyze them. Today we're going to be going over the 2021 rookie quarterback class, what to expect from them week 1, and when to expect to see them make their debut. First up on our list, we have Mr. Trevor Lawrence himself making his first appearance week 1 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'd like to start out with the bad for Trevor Lawrence before we get to the good stuff, okay? So, he struggles with quick passes sometimes, which leads to incompletions or even turnovers. He also failed to anticipate throwing windows. He scrambles out of a protected pocket after the first read is covered. He also looks at the first read until it's too late, creating dumb mistakes like taking a sack or running out as previously mentioned. He also throws to a receiver before the receiver even looks and comes out of his break. His 2019 passes, not including screens, include a 48% completion percentage, including 989 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, which is meh. 2020 season stats were slightly better, but not enough to say he improved or declined in the final season at Clemson, which is why I didn't put them in here. But note, these stats are not against your top-ranked teams. They're against your North Carolinas, your Georgia Techs, etc. Some reasons to be worried about Trevor Lawrence is that he isn't starting out with the best offensive line in the league. At Clemson, he's used to great pass protection, which allowed sacks at 4% of his snaps. According to PFF.com, he'll be around the number 24 ranked line in football today. He's playing his first year with a receiving core that seemed to be a work in progress. Veteran Marvin Jones Jr. is a solid player, but he isn't consistent enough to be the wide receiver 1, and that's for a reason. DJ Chark is another decent receiver, but he's also averaging close to 600 yards per year in the league. But it's important to note that QB play is also really crucial here. He hasn't had a QB worth noting within the past 3 years, and I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be something special for DJ Chark. Okay, now for the good stuff, the positives. Now, everybody kind of realized how good of a player Trevor Lawrence is in college, so I didn't focus on too much. But one thing that I would really like to add is that he has great reads pre-snap. He can make big plays out of defensive mistakes. You can look at games like Ohio State where he was looking at different linebacker spots and the safeties and different movements before the play even starts, which is really crucial and something really, really needed for a good quarterback in the league today. He has Urban Meyer on his side, which has an idea of what the offense is going to look like in his first year as a head coach, but sadly he isn't going to be calling plays. In his last 2 years as head coach of the Buckeyes, he called his run-pass plays as pretty even and straight down the middle as possible. Also, as previously mentioned, DJ Chark is due for another breakout season. He had 31 targets from the deep ball last season, but only 11 were deemed catchable. With Lawrence's arm, I really think that DJ Chark is a lock for another breakout year. For my projection as far as when Trevor Lawrence is going to be playing, obviously he's already been announced to be playing week 1. He's also starting his NFL career against one of the league's bottom teams, the Houston Texans. After trading defensive end Shaq Lawson, it's hard to think of another household name on that side of the ball for the Texans. I say Lawrence gets jittery this first half, but finishes strong, giving Jacksonville their first win of the season. Up next, we have the number 2 draft pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Zach Wilson, for the New York Jets. So starting off with the bad, he's more of a project for the Jets, which we all know is not what they need. He also really loves to throw impressive throws, and he also has trouble processing defenses post-snap. Here's the meh category we're going to introduce. He's mostly accurate on quick passes. He also threw a dangerous pass during a team scrimmage, so this is how it goes hand in hand. He threw a ball into oncoming traffic that could have actually hurt the receiver, and I'll put this in the description below, but it was a really dangerous pass that could have sent the player to the emergency room. So very, very hand-in-hand meh category. A reason to be worried for Zach Wilson is that sometimes great college statistics don't translate well. For an example, Mitch Trubisky had similar stats in college and only a little less accurate on his throws. I pray that Zach Wilson doesn't end up like Trubisky and that both quarterbacks go on to have more success in the future. An impressive stat line that I have for Zach Wilson is that he improved his completion percentage from 62 to 73% from 2019 to 2020. Just the span of 1 year, that's outstanding. He threw for 3,700 yards, 33 touchdowns. He had 10 rushing touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. That's pretty good. So, some good news for Zach Wilson is that he's physically and mentally strong. He has great arm strength. He's also very accurate, and he's not afraid to take a sack. He anticipates receivers well instead of waiting until they get open. He also has great accuracy on one-on-one situations, and he also reads non-aggressive defenders well pre-snap so that he can create opportunities for his receivers, which is a very, very good trait to have. So some reasons to be excited for Zach Wilson is that sometimes when college QBs aren't heavily recruited, have a small amount of college progression, and didn't show much progression until their last season, you end up with someone with high-end traits that match with high-end production. Look at Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers, etc. I'm not saying that they're similar play styles, but I'm definitely saying something that college scouts notice and something fans should be optimistic about. He obviously can also develop quickly given his growth from 2019 to 2020 with his completion percentage, the yardage, the touchdowns to interceptions ratio. It's very, very important to look at those things, and I think that he's easily developed, and I think that he has a very, very bright future ahead of him. For my week 1 projection, I think that he's facing a top 15 defense versus the Panthers, so he'll be jittery in the first half, just like I said about Trevor Lawrence, but he'll lose in week 1, unfortunately, but he'll show signs of promise that'll keep Jets fans on their feet. Up next, out of North Dakota State, we have the number 3 pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Trey Lance. For the bad for Trey Lance, a high amount of touchdowns thrown are uncontested, wide-open passes, and his performance in high-pressure situations is unknown. As for the meh category for Trey Lance, his accuracy does need a lot of work, but there's not a lot for the meh and the bad categories, surprisingly. Good, he's a very good player physically. He's also very athletic, and he's a dual-threat quarterback that makes great reads when he gives himself time to do so. He's also not afraid to take a hit. He has a great deep ball and has decent footwork, but he needs to move fluently with his head and his legs, according to former quarterback Kurt Warner. Here are his 2019 stats. He had 66.9% completion percentage, 28 passing touchdowns, an 1,100 rushing yard season, and 14 rushing touchdowns with 0 interceptions. You heard that right. 0. To be worried is that he took off a year because of COVID, like I mentioned. North Dakota State didn't really play anyone in 2019 worth noting in Lance's last year of play. He's also never been able to play from a losing position, and his completion percentage was never really good this past preseason. Some reasons to be excited about Trey Lance is that he showed in the preseason that he has potential to be a great quarterback. He's also definitely a project worth watching, and he's also showed that he's capable to put up points for his team if he needs to do so. For the projection for when he'll start and what the team record will be when he starts is that I don't really know if he will start this season. It's more of a factor of whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo can stay healthy. Lance has shown that although he can score, he can also create turnovers. So if he can work with someone like Jimmy Garoppolo as his mentor, I think he'll be at a point to where he'll be a great backup in case of that injury. But in that scenario, I would expect Garoppolo to be quarterback 1 until further notice. Up next, we have former Georgia Bulldog and former Ohio State Buckeye and the newest Chicago Bear, Justin Fields. As for the bad for Justin Fields, he threw 3 interceptions against Indiana, one team outside of the nation's top 25. He also holds the ball too long at some points, and stats when pressured are some of the worst. So if Chicago doesn't mold the team around him, the results can potentially be catastrophic. For the good about Justin Fields, he's extremely smart. He has a huge arm, and he's accurate from deep. About 5 to 60 yards is his range, and he's a tough player. He's also mobile. He's a dual-threat quarterback, and he's a calm player. He's also not fazed by pressure, which is backed up by the stat line against Clemson in the Sugar Bowl. He had a 79% completion percentage with 385 yards and 6 touchdowns in that game alone. His first season with the Buckeyes, he had an outstanding year in his sophomore year. He had a 67% completion percentage with 3,273 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. In 2020, he slightly regressed with 70% completion percentage, 2,100 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Some reasons to be worried about Justin Fields is that he took the 3rd most amount of time in the pocket to throw the ball, and with Chicago's offensive line, you won't get that much time consistently. He also takes too much time to read a play sometimes, and that can also create problems. And also, like I said, he slightly regressed in his junior year compared to his sophomore year. Some reasons to be excited about Justin Fields is that Chicago hasn't had a franchise quarterback, and he looks like he has enough potential to be the first. He's also showing potential to be Offensive Rookie of the Year and can make big plays out of little to nothing. Before I get to this next part, let me just do something really quick. I predict that Justin Fields will get his first start in Week 4 against Detroit. With the fans backing him, Soldier Field will be roaring, and when he starts against a bottom 3 team in the league, it'll be enough for him to get a few touchdowns and a win for Chicago. Next up, we have former Alabama quarterback Mac Jones for the New England Patriots. For the bad for Mac Jones, he struggles with processing the defense. He sometimes struggles with ball placement and accuracy, sometimes, and a little under average arm strength, and he also loses defenders in coverage sometimes. As for the good with Mac Jones, and there's only a little bit because I'm going to mention it later on, but he has great timing and release, and he also has amazing accuracy from all lengths of the field. Note when I said in the bad category that he sometimes struggles with it, and when he does, it's a big problem. That's why I wanted to add it in there. Outstanding stat line for you guys is that he had 77% completion percentage, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, but it should have been way more interceptions. But he had one of the most, if not the most impressive stat line for one of the most impressive schools in college football. To be worried about Mac Jones is that, one of my personal reasons at least, is that he played with the best college offense in college football, ran by the best coach in college football. One could make the debate that if he was on any other team, he wouldn't have gotten the recognition he got at Alabama. He also rode the bench the past 2 seasons for Alabama, and New England doesn't have the pieces yet to complement Jones' abilities. To be excited about Mac Jones is that he took Cam Newton's job. That should tell you enough about him. And then he also looks like a typical Bill Belichick love story quarterback. For my projected start and performance, I think that New England plays Miami Week 1, so Mac Jones should maybe play good, but New England really heavily relies on his performance. So if he fails to impress against Miami and loses Week 1, don't be surprised. That's the end of the video. Disagree on any of my takes? Please let me know down in the comments. For more weekly predictions as the season goes on, projections between specific players, and coverage between just about all sports, click the subscribe button. If you have any suggestions or ideas for me to cover on the channel, leave them in the comments below. Lastly, if you like the video, tell me by clicking on the like button. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.